Spot Time, Maya Acosta, joined today by a member of our Tehachapi Police Department. I'm joined by Senior Officer Jeff Packebush. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for letting me be here today, Maya.
Well, thank you for coming in and telling us a bit more about yourself and your involvement with TPD. So, starting off, let's just dive right in. Can you tell me a bit about your background and how you came to be a member of the Tehachapi Police Department?
Certainly. I originally joined the California Highway Patrol back in August of 2000. Spent 11 years with that department doing different assignments. I worked in Santa Clarita, New Hall area, then Bakersfield, then the academy, where I was basically a drill instructor, what we call a recruit training officer. Then went back to Bakersfield, where I left the Highway Patrol in, it was May of 2011. And then went to Arvin Police Department, completely different parameter there. Obviously trained in law enforcement, but the mission of the Highway Patrol is much different than the mission of law enforcement, or like police departments.
Sure.
Dealing with more criminal aspects, domestic violence, robberies, those types of things. Spent about 5.5 years there in Arvin. Became a detective for a short time. I was a detective for about 3 months or so, and that was right before I came here to Tehachapi, and I've been here in Tehachapi since October of 2018. Done many different things within Tehachapi in that short time. Was a school resource officer, where I got to meet many of the school staff and their administrative staff as well, building a relationship between the police department and the school. Then went back to patrol for a little while, then eventually promoted to senior officer. And here we are today, 5.5, almost 6 years later, and this great place to work and live.
Wonderful. Okay, you gave me a lot to go off of here, so let me backtrack a little bit. I'm curious to learn a bit more about the difference in even just the day-to-day goings-ons comparatively from being a CHP versus a police department. Can you talk more about that?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. With the Highway Patrol, your focus is mainly on traffic-related issues, traffic congestion, traffic crashes, DUI investigation. That's what we really focused on with the Highway Patrol. We do those things within the police department as well. However, with the Highway Patrol, we weren't responding to people's homes or businesses on a regular basis. When there's some kind of disturbance at a business, Highway Patrol's not going there.
Sure.
They're dealing with the traffic issues. We're going to people's homes because of some breakdown, whether it could be, like I said, domestic violence issues or just someone's having a bad day. Again, CHP, you get trained in those things in the academy, but you're not doing those things on a regular basis.
Okay, very interesting. Now, as you mentioned you were an SRO for a while as well. And several of the TPD members, personnel that I've had the opportunity to speak with in past episodes also had time serving as a school resource officer. Can you tell me a bit about that experience? And would you say that role, and to me, it seems like that would be a really great way to get yourself immersed with the community as a whole and just learn more about the people and everything that's happening here locally. Absolutely.
It's an opportunity as a school resource officer to give the students maybe a first glimpse of a police officer. They may never ever seen one before, or they've only had bad experiences with the police. And it's an opportunity to show them the positive side of law enforcement, that, hey, we're people too. We're here for a specific reason. Unfortunately, there's a need for school resource officers. I wish there was a world where there wasn't, because obviously having officers in the school may remind people of things that are out in the world. But it's, like you said, it's a great opportunity to build a relationship with younger kids. And as they grow older, Tehachapi, a lot of people stick around here even after they leave to go to college or wherever. They come back here, and you build a lot of great relationships with these students. And hopefully they're all positive. Of course, there are those incidents where they're not so positive, but we we deal with those as they come.
Sure. So it's an opportunity to build what it sounds like lifelong connections with residents here.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Now, what exactly, I am new to learning all the different kind of roles and positions within the structure of the police department. Can you tell me a bit about your role as senior officer, what that entails, and how it plays into the organization of the department as a whole?
Of course. As a senior officer, I'm actually a shift supervisor where I'm basically in charge of the patrol shift and the school resource officer when I'm on duty, just maintaining the daily activities, making sure I know the patrol officers are doing their jobs in a manner that we find acceptable, review their reports. I also take care of our scheduling. So for our entire department, so I schedule who's on, who's off, who's on vacation, who do I need to fill in for those vacation spots. And I'm our training manager. I also was just assigned recruiting and training. So there's a lot of aspects, and many other departments, a senior officer would be just I shouldn't say just a more experienced officer, like a field training officer.
Yeah.
They handle more serious crimes. But in our department, I'm used in a little bit different role, a little bit more responsibilities.
Gotcha. Okay. And now we talked a bit about kind of your background with some of the other agencies. I'm always curious to learn more about what led you or anyone in law enforcement to pursue a career in law enforcement. Can you tell me a bit about that? I know before we started, you mentioned your I guess you're a veteran. You were in the military. Can you tell me a bit about what led you to choosing this career in law enforcement in general?
It was really out of necessity. I was ending my contract with the Navy.
Okay.
I spent 7 years in the Navy, and it was time to move on. Had a young family with military salary. It was very difficult to support a family. So it was more out of necessity. And my sister is she recently retired from the California Highway Patrol.
Oh, okay.
So she was steering me in that direction. But prior to that, I never had any real interest in law enforcement. I wanted to stay in the Navy for a career. I was a navigation electronics technician. I loved what I did. It was a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time away from home, but it was worth it. It was being able to travel the world on the government's dime was, I should say, taxpayers' dime. Was a very eye-opening experience. Just coming from Bakersfield, not really having a lot of world views. So
right.
It really opened up my eyes to the world per se, instead of just keeping focused on the West Coast.
Gotcha. And so taking those experiences those new perspectives that you got, and now looking at where you're at, your family, I assume, lives here in Tehachapi locally. Tell me a bit about what it's like to live and work here in Tehachapi.
It's a great city to live in. It really is. Again, desperation kind of made us move up here because of the real estate market that was going on in Bakersfield at the time. We actually had somebody come to our home. I just happened to be on a day off. Someone came to our home. It's like, hey, we heard you may be selling your house. We'd like to take a look at the house. So I had been working here for just short of a year at the time, making the commute between Bakersfield and Tehachapi. And as you know, at times that could be pretty sketchy on the 58 when there's a lot of traffic or snow closes the road. So someone came to the door. They wanted to see our home. And I was like, well, this is kind of different because we hadn't put it for sale. We had only talked to our neighbors regarding selling the house. So they looked around the house, left. About 30 minutes later, they came back and said, we want to put an offer on your home. And that led us to really want to find a home really fast here in Tehachapi. And when I interviewed here, that was one of the things I mentioned is that I want to become a part of this community and not just absorb a paycheck from the city and live somewhere else.
Sure.
I want to be a part of this community and support this community as much as possible. So we moved up here and we've loved it ever since. I think my wife didn't like some of the advertisements. We get a light dusting of snow every once in a while was the word that was getting out. But our first winter here, we received a lot of snow in 2019. So she was a little upset about that, but she's gotten over it. We love working here. I live a mile from work, and that's pretty nice. I've had to commute everywhere else. So.
Well, that's good. And I think it's a big adjustment moving here from whether it be a bigger city or, elsewhere in the country. But once you become part of the community, it's like all of those negatives maybe that you might have seen at first just go away. You're like, no, this is great. I love it here.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like, I don't want to work in the city I don't want to live in the city that I work in, especially in law enforcement. And I've never had that concern here.
Yeah.
Never. I've had a patrol vehicle parked in front of my house for months on end when I was the school resource officer, and never worried about anyone coming to my home and causing any trouble. So I think that was built by all of the Tehachapi police officers that were here prior, to make sure that this Tehachapi is a safe city.
Yeah, and it's something that we've discussed several times in similar segments like this with our other TPD personnel, that Tehachapi is a very law enforcement friendly, pro law enforcement community. Can you speak a bit on that comparatively, maybe your experiences working for other agencies and what that environment's like here?
Oh, absolutely. My only experience with another city council would be Arvin, and my experience with the citizens of Arvin. The demographics are a lot different. Right. Arvin's a farming community. Mm-hmm. Their population fluctuates quite a bit during the depending on what season it is. Right. During the summer, it swells. The population swells quite a bit, and then in the winter, it drops a little bit. I believe when I left there in 2018, it was like a 93% Hispanic population and a little bit of a gang issue. So it was very anti-police there.
Right.
I can't speak for all of the city government. There was one or two who were really behind law enforcement. Some of them weren't. And it was very obvious in the way they handled business. When I was a school resource officer in Arvin as well for a little while, and it was pretty common for me to be at the middle school and see a lot of what we call one-finger salutes. These are from 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. That doesn't happen here in Tehachapi. Everybody waves with all of their fingers extended, and it took me a little while to get used to that. But the city council here, the citizens are very pro law enforcement, and I think we're very blessed to have that because it doesn't exist everywhere. So we're very fortunate to have it here in Tehachapi.
Yeah, absolutely. And piggybacking off of city council, this week at our Monday city council meeting, we had several promotions, some TPD employee highlights, and even the swearing in of a new officer. So obviously that was a very big deal, and it was an emotional night. But can you speak a bit on the reorganization that TPD has seen and what that means to you, as a member of the team, and seeing the growth and the potential that you yourself or your coworkers and team members have within our local police department?
Yes, as you stated, we just had 2 promotions from sergeant to lieutenant with Lieutenant Dunham and Lieutenant Rupert. Lieutenant Dunham has been here since 2007, since the police department reopened. So he's one of the original guys from way back then. He's a very hard worker, very knowledgeable in the world of law enforcement. He has a lot of different experiences in many different fields of law enforcement. So the opportunity for him to promote is, I don't want to say it's a morale booster for the rest of the police department, but it gives us the ability to look forward to the future, to see what's going to happen later on. And like I said, he and Lieutenant Rupert they're very good at progressive thinking. Mm-hmm. Where are we going to be in 2 years? Where are we going to be in 3 years? How are we going to budget what we need for those times, personnel wise, equipment wise. They're very good in that, and that also creates a void behind them. So that creates 2 sergeant positions, and then that gives the guys opportunities to promote, and then have a little bit of opportunities to do different things within law enforcement. With the reorganization, in the time I've been here, we've never had 2 lieutenants. When I first came here, there was 1, and he retired a short time later. So we went a very long time without having a lieutenant. So there was a chief of police, 4 sergeants, and then the patrol officers. Now we're building that little bit of a paramilitary organization where we have a lieutenant that takes care of administrative duties. We have a lieutenant that takes care of operational duties at patrol, investigations, and so on. And again, it just... it creates a little bit more of a structured environment. Okay.
And would you say that this new structure and the room for growth is kind of an encouragement for our, existing police officers, but also for potential recruits to show that, we may be a small agency, but you can progress in your career right here in our small community?
Absolutely. It may take a little while than some other places, a little while longer than other places, but it does open up opportunities to get into other fields than just patrol, because every police officer I've ever known has gone through this phase of maybe 5 to 7 years where they want to do something different, where you get comfortable and knowledgeable in a particular area like patrol. Now you want to try something else. You want to test the waters per se, to do investigate, more in-depth investigative work,
right?
Or anything else that comes open, like narcotics, any opportunity we have to work with other agencies.
Interesting. And I know too, one thing that's been kind of a hot topic within the city and TPD is theft prevention. Can you talk a bit more about that and sort of the changes that we've seen maybe in policing, whether it be in our commercial corridor or anything related to the theft prevention here locally?
Yes. We are receiving some cameras. They're called flock cameras that we could post throughout the city, and they're actually license plate readers, and they can record if we're looking for a particular type of vehicle. It logs that information, logs a license plate and what type of vehicle it is. So if we're looking for a red Kia, and we just type in red Kia into the queue, it'll give us all the red Kias that have passed through this point from one time to another. That's one way, and unfortunately, that may not necessarily be used as a theft. It can generally, or at some point, be used as a theft prevention technique.
Sure.
Because once that word gets out, maybe people are less inclined to come up here to commit any crimes.
Yeah.
And like you said, those are kind of after the fact. Those are most time like something more has already happened, but it gives us better investigative leads to find whoever is driving that vehicle, or it could lead us to that vehicle.
Sure.
And of course, the best theft prevention methods are, as far as vehicles go, take all your valuables out of your vehicle, lock your doors, don't leave anything in view of the windows. That will help mitigate. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It's just helping to mitigate those issues.
Yeah. And as much as, Tehachapi is just renowned for being a safe community comparatively to a lot of our other Kern County communities and cities, it is an important reminder that still to lock your doors, your car doors and everything, because you never know. There's people that are traveling in and out of Tehachapi from all over the state. So better safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
Switching gears now to talk a bit about an upcoming event. Wow, April 7th. That is just right around the corner. The Bakersfield Marathon. You were telling me earlier that you're going to be one of our participants in this Bakersfield Marathon. Got runners participating in all of the different races. But ultimately, the funds raised, or what we're trying to do is raise funds for the Tehachapi Police Foundation by supporting our police and city staff that are participating in the Bakersfield Marathon. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Maybe have you had been doing some training runs? How are you feeling?
Well, having trained for marathons in the past. It's not easy. It's hard to find the time to get the miles in. And sometimes the adrenaline of the race day, it kind of helps you get through.
Sure.
But yeah, the training is definitely not easy. We also have some other things that we're doing as well. Myself and some of the other members of the police department are getting involved in. It's hard to train for both at the same time because one is weight bearing and walking, and the other one is running.
Okay.
So we're looking for those events, and obviously, as you said, it's to raise money for the Tehachapi Police Foundation. They raise money to buy equipment that it could be outside of the city budget. If we don't have money budgeted for those particular items, the foundation helps us out tremendously. They've hosted dinners. They do all kinds of things for the police department. And again, we're very fortunate to have this foundation. I believe Kim Nixon is still the president, and I haven't talked to her in a little while, so I didn't want to misspeak on that one. But they do great work, and the other events that they've supported, Shop with the Cop, and all kind. And there's too many other events that they support. Again, we're just really lucky to have them.
Yeah. And so the event's coming up here in just a few weeks. But if anyone listening wants to support our city and police runners, you can go to our website, liveuptehachapi.com. I believe there's a page for it on our home screen. And you can click, and it takes you to the Square website, and it's super easy to donate. So I think we're shooting... I don't remember our donation target. I'll add it in our description here, along with a link to the website. But any support is greatly appreciated. As we were talking about, it goes to support the Police Foundation, and something I know that Kim Nixon and the foundation is working on is doing some more youth programs. So that's also what some of this funding is going to go towards, engaging our youth, getting them more in touch with our police department, and just a great organization and a great way to support the police department as a whole. All right. Is there anything else that I missed? Anything that we need to touch on?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Again, it's I sound very repetitive, but this is a great place to, like I said, great place to live, great place to work. We have a lot of officers within the department who are very committed, and they want to make this place, you were mentioning before, the safest community that we could possibly make it. And our citizens have a big part in that as well. Mm-hmm. They help with our crime solvability quite a bit.
Right.
Again, my past experience working in Arvin is there's a lot of crime, but not a lot of people who are willing to get involved and point out who the perpetrators are. Here, that's really not an issue. If our citizens see somebody doing something they should not be doing, they're quick to point it out, and they're not afraid to help us out in any way. So that's very much appreciated by the agency.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can always call the dispatch or City Hall here with any sort of concerns you may have. Always willing to help, whatever it may be. So thank you again, Officer Packebush, for coming in and telling us more about yourself and your background, and giving us some more details on the reorganization of the police department. And thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks again for inviting me. This was a lot easier than I expected it to be. I was pretty nervous coming in, but you made it pretty easy. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. I tried not to make these too painful. I know all of the TPD personnel that come in here are a little nervous, but
it's kind of strange that we don't really have too many reservations about talking to people face to face, but you put a microphone in front of us and we just go blank.
Yeah, it's a different environment.
It definitely is. It's definitely stepping outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah. But again, it just shows our